What is going on, everybody? It's Carl here, and today we're going to be continuing on working on the Camaro, trying to get the front brake swap done. And so just to start off, I did kind of button up the driver's side because I just wanted to make sure about any future problems that I may run into, or just to see kind of fitment and everything. And of course, there is a few issues that I am going to have to address. So, first impressions. Damn, these rotors are big compared to what I was working with, and you can see how small of a surface area the old stock rotors are. I mean, it's actually a huge difference. I would want to say we probably will be able to at least 2 times the stopping power just by doing the front brakes. I mean, I already 2 times the stopping power by, swapping the rear discs in the back. But man, this is crazy, like how big these rotors are. And they're not even that big of rotors either. I mean, great dual piston, more surface area on the rotors. That's what you want. But to get into the problems I have encountered, and one problem I did know about, or I knew about, like, say 5 years ago, and now I'm just rediscovering it, is on the LS1 calipers, they got these fins, right? Well, you cannot fit, what's the word? You cannot fit 15-inch wheels with these calipers unless you shave off these fins a little bit and make some room. Now, I could go the cheap route and, grind down those fins, but I don't really want to, and I have another solution, right? I do have 17-inch wheels that match the back, right? And so these are the 15s, but I do have the 17-inch wheels that match, that I could mount on the front. The only concern I do have is that, with that style wheel, right, and how flat faced they are, there's no concave or anything, is I don't think they will fit with this caliper sticking out. They may, I don't really know, and I still got to try it. But I mean, I've heard they fit, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we may have to run a little spacer. Not really sure. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get tires for the 17-inch wheels, and then we'll try to fit it that way. And we'll see what happens then. Because if I do got to order spacers, that's cheap, easy, not a problem. The second issue that I am going to run into is, so if you look, you see where that banjo bolt is? Well, since this caliper is so much larger than the stock, right? That banjo bolt is a lot lower than, or it's a lot lower for the stock 3rd gen brake line. This brake line is not that long, and it's going to be a very tight fit, but you also got to remember when you do a full turn that way or this way, right? You're going to be stretching out that line, and it may not actually work. So what I'm going to have to do is probably, and I don't know if 4th gen brake lines are longer, which I would assume they are. We're going to have to run maybe 4th gen brake lines, but I got to do a little research. I'm not really sure. So that's to be determined. But what we can do today is I can finish tightening up the passenger side and get everything torqued and everything. And then we'll get the brake caliper and rotor mounted on that side, and then we can go from there. Another problem that I ran into was the calipers that I bought off of Facebook Marketplace. The one caliper, when I had to try to, move the pistons back in or whatever, I couldn't do it, not even with a vise. And I ended up breaking the table vise, you know, cheap vise, but I ended up breaking the vise, and that tells me those pistons are seized and they just weren't going to work. Now, I don't know if it was, you know, I was sold bad brake calipers, like they knew they were bad, or, you know, is it because they sat around for several years and they seized inside, you know, maybe there wasn't enough fluid inside the calipers, you know, I don't know. But this is definitely like, you know, one of those moments where, you know, it shows that, you know, why I don't like buying used car parts off a marketplace is because of shit like this. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it was the seller's fault. Totally could have been my fault. You know, totally could have been from sitting around, but you never know. I don't know. So I'll never know, which is fine. Whatever. I use them as cores, and I got new calipers from Napa, so not a big deal. All right, so I am on the passenger side, and I got the knuckle bolts torqued down. They wanted 195 foot-pounds, of course. The only torque wrench I have here only goes up to 150. And, you know, this is a cheap Pittsburgh one from Harbor Freight, so I don't really care about it. And it's probably out of calibration anyways. So what I did is I tightened it all the way to when it clicked at 150. And then I did another quarter turn, or as tight as I can get it. And I guarantee you these are probably damn close to 195 foot-pounds. I mean, you know, they're never going to come loose, so I'm not really worried about that. You know, I've tightened these bolts tons of times on this car, as you can see, and like I've never had an issue. So next thing we got to do is I'll do the tie rod, and then we'll work to the lower ball joint. All right, so I got the lower ball joint torqued down, and they wanted that to 90 foot-pounds. And then I got the tie rod done, which they wanted at, oh, light went out. They wanted at 40 foot-pounds. So now all I got to do is the sway bar, and then we can put the rotor on, mount the caliper, and which I got to torque the bolts that go to the like caliper mount. I got to torque those to 85 foot-pounds. I just haven't done it yet over there, and we'll do it at the same time on this side. So let's start tightening down this nut, and I think I used a wrench on that, or a socket. I don't remember, but we'll get that done. What did they want that one at? I think that was another 40, but let me confirm. I have confirmed they wanted the sway bar end link at 40 as well. All right, so sway bar is tight, so now let's go put a rotor on. All right, so I got the rotor on, and I kind of already set up this caliper. Pulling it out of the box, so this caliper is from Napa. But I highly recommend, when you get these calipers, is definitely loosen up the pin bolts, because I don't know what they torque them to, but they are way too tight. And I was noticing that the mounting bracket was not willing to slide very easily, and all this and that. And really, when you kind of loosen them up, before you put a wrench on the inside here, let it spin around, because then it'll lube up a lot of the grease inside on that pin. And then once you take the bolts out, you'll notice the pins move nice and freely. So yeah, again, they probably over torqued them, and I'm just like, yeah, this is not great at all, and I wasn't very happy about it. But yeah, after taking them off, you know, making sure the pin moved freely, putting them back on, there's a lot of movement now, which is nice. So since I already got the pads in there, and hopefully I got them on the right way, I figured this piece on the brake pad had to be up. Not really sure if it had to be on top or bottom. There was no instructions, I don't know. And there was not pads on the old calipers, so I don't really know how they go on and off. But anyways, so let's get this mounted on, and then we can torque both sides down, and we'll see what we're gonna do after that. All right, so I got the calipers all tightened up, torqued everything. We got cotter pins on both of the nuts, And yeah, we're pretty much set all the way around. So now pretty much what I got to do is do a little research to see if, what kind of brake hose I need. And I think the banjo bolts are going to be the same. They look the same, but you never know when you take them out. So I don't know. The only other thing I could think of that might be a problem is, say I use 4th gen Camaro brake hoses. Will that fitting be the same for the brake hose? Chances are it will not, because I ran into that issue when I swapped to a 4th gen brake master cylinder. So I'm gonna guess they changed it up. They always do after so many years, but who knows? We'll figure that out later. I'm just gonna do some research, but we're very close, very close. And I'm gonna shop around for some tires and see what kind of price I can come up with. So, but thanks for watching, everybody. We're moving along on the Camaro. We're like almost there. There's light at the end of the tunnel. But thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.